Applying what you know in the kind of music theory realm of things can only speed up the process when it comes to your melody writing. But not everybody is that confident in that area. And if that's you, I would say don't let it stop you. Here's a practical exercise that any player of any level can try, no matter what your approach usually is. If you're coming up against a bit of writer's block, you should try recording your stream of consciousness. On your home setup, or even just on your phone, set it to record for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Then you want to loop your chords or your backing track, whatever you're working with, and then spitball melodic ideas over the top as they come. Give yourself a moment to get comfortable with that space of freestyling in the moment. The more relaxed you are, the more ideas will come. Afterwards, you want to listen back to all of your takes and kind of sift through to try and find the gold, like the melody that interlocks into place. And you'll likely kind of hear that in the moment as you're recording. But if you're not completely convinced, I'd hit record and go for round 2. This is essentially an experiment. It's a sandbox for you in that moment to kind of play around with the range, the rhythm, the phrasing. And the key is to just not overthink it. Be creative with it so you have as many takes as possible to play around with. If you're coming up against writer's block a little, as we all do, then this is a really organic approach to try out. It will pull your creative muse to the surface a little bit, and it's all about catching yourself out in the moment. When you do find that gold melody that kind of shines through, it's almost like, well, there's your proof. You are a good writer, you can do this. It just took a little bit of digging together. My third tip really is don't be afraid to keep things simple. Try to write your melodies with accessibility in mind. Sometimes as well. Like, think about the listener experience and ask yourself whether what you're writing, is it memorable for the listener? Is it something that they could easily sing along to? The simplest melodies are usually the most memorable and oftentimes can be the catchiest, but that's not to say that you shouldn't play around with more complex melodies and counterpoints and stuff like that too. One thing to bear in mind is that the work we put in as songwriters is often outputted as a 3-4 minute body of work, so it's relatively short-lived. So we have to put the groundwork in as the writers to make sure that our melodies, our stories, remain with the listener after they've stopped listening. So to sum up, in your approach with your melody writing, try and keep these 3 aims in mind. Number 1, understand the mechanics of the melody and what's going on underneath the hood. Number 2, don't overthink things and switch up your approach if you're coming up against a bit of writer's block. And number 3, try and forge melodies that will live with the listener for as long as possible. You can keep things simple, accessible, and still have beautifully crafted melodies.